President. When I'm back in the Oval Office, no one will lay a finger on your firearms. It's not going to happen. And I want to thank some of the great members of Congress that are with us today. We appreciate it. Scott Perry, brave man. Where is Scott? Where is Scott? He's fantastic. Thank you, Scott. Great job. Guy Reschenthaler. Guy Reschenthaler. Where is Guy? He's here. I just saw. There he is. Thank you, Guy. Fantastic job. A good friend of mine, Dan Muser. Dan. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan, very much. He's great patriots, great people. Lloyd Schmucker. Thank you, Lloyd. Thanks very much. Great job, too. These are very brave people. Also, Ambassador Carla Sands, who's done a fantastic job. And a friend of mine, you wouldn't believe it, I met him when he worked at CNN. Can you believe it? No. He got out. He said, I'm out of here. He said, I'm out of here. And he's an incredible writer, a great intellect. Jeffrey Lord, wherever you may be. Jeffrey, thank you. As many of you know, last night we had a monumental victory in Nevada. It was a big one. We won over 99% of the vote and got more votes than any candidate in the history of the Nevada caucus. Think of that. That's a nice one. And we also won yesterday a beautiful place, I will tell you, but this is a beautiful place also. But we won the Virgin Islands, got 100%. We won it in a landslide. And 3 weeks ago, we all watched that. It was 40 degrees below zero. How about that? That's good. You don't have weather like that. We have some lousy weather here, too, but we don't have weather like that. 40 degrees. You couldn't walk from the car to a door, which was like there. And you walked and you said, I think I'm frozen. It was seriously cold. 3 weeks ago, record-breaking margins, and we won, as you know, New Hampshire. We won Iowa. We won everything. In fact, when we went to Iowa, we won by the largest margin in the history of the Iowa caucus, ×2, double the largest margin. Then we went to New Hampshire, and we had more votes than any candidate has ever gotten in the history of the New Hampshire primary. So these are good signs. These are good signs. And 15 days from now, we're going to win the South Carolina primary. We're way ahead. But we only have a 42-point lead. That's not bad. And this November, we're going to win. Remember, this is the big one. The White House. We're going to win the White House. Starting with a historic triumph right here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We love Pennsylvania. I went to school in Pennsylvania. I love Pennsylvania. We ran twice. We won Pennsylvania twice. We won it twice. We did much better the second time than we did the first time. It's interesting, isn't it? 4 years ago, I told you what would happen if Joe Biden got into office. I said he would throw open our borders, destroy our middle class, crush American energy. We were energy independent 3 years ago. Now we're asking Venezuela, can we have some of your oil, please? He was going to empower America's enemies, unleash misery throughout your state and throughout our country, bedlam and chaos at home and abroad. The only thing I didn't know is I didn't know how bad it would be. It's even worse. Everyone said I was exaggerating, but sadly, as the now famous saying goes, Trump was right about everything. I was right about Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the worst and most incompetent and most corrupt president in the history of our country. And today I issue another warning. If Crooked Joe gets 4 more years, his second term will make his first term looked like paradise. We're not going to have a country left anymore. We're not going to let it happen. We can never, ever let that happen. The stampede of illegal aliens across our borders will surge into the tens of millions. I hate to tell you, we're already there. I believe that you'll have 19 million people have come into our country illegally by the end of his term. 19, it's bigger than New York State. And the people that will benefit the least, the biggest losers in this whole invasion, will be African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, and all unions. Unions will be out of business. I met with the Teamsters the other day. had a good meeting with the Teamsters. And I said, you better get me because we're going to close up our borders. We had the safest borders in the history of our country, and now we have the worst. Hourly wages will be cut in half if Biden's policies are allowed to continue. Open border, he wants open border. Nobody thought they were real when they say open border. They come in from prisons all over the world, from mental institutions all over the world. They're terrorists. What we're taking into our country by the millions. And we're going to end it on day one. We end it on day one. Our cities have already become hellholes with carjackings, lootings, muggings, and murder spilling deep into the suburbs. The other day, one of the great people who worked for me in the White House, an executive, brilliant young person, was carjacked and shot in the head and killed. And this is in Washington, D.C. It took place. He was picking up his wife, incredible couple, beautiful couple with children, beautiful children. And a thug came up, put a gun to his head and killed him. For no reason whatsoever, just killed him. Our currency will be trashed. Our middle class will be thrown into servitude and poverty. This is what's happening already. You see it's happening. You take a look at your cities are going to hell. You take a look at what's going on. They're filthy dirty. They're crime-ridden. People walk down the street, they get shot, they get mugged. We're really likely to face I say 100% chance of a terrorist attack. You know, in 2019, and I didn't even believe this number, but the fake news, that's a lot of fake news. Look at that. It's a lot of fake news. I didn't believe this number, but they had up that in 2019, that's my time, there were no terrorists. You know, we had all sorts of bans. We had it down. We really had it down. Not one terrorist that they have, at least on record, sure it can't be exactly correct, but not one terrorist was reported. Now, if you look at your numbers, more than we've ever taken are pouring into our country from all over the world, from countries that many of you have never even heard of. They're pouring into our country. And an entire generation of young people could very well be decimated by something that could very well happen, World War III, and it'll never happen with me. I can tell you that. It will never happen with me. Never. If you care about your country, if you care about your children, then this November you have to fire. Remember The Apprentice? You're fired. You're fired. Some people say that's how I became president. I don't know if that's true or not. That was quite something. But you have to fire crooked Joe Biden, and we have to do votes like you've never seen before. They cheat like hell, and we have to just swamp them. We're going to swamp them. They're not going to be able to cheat their way out of it. No, think of it. Who can get elected with high interest rates, open borders, food that costs 40, 50, 60% more than it did just a few years ago? Your lifestyles have changed. Who can get elected with this stuff? A woke military. We have a great military. I rebuilt the entire military. And how about Afghanistan, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country? Which is why Putin probably looked at that. He saw incompetence all over. That was a surrender, I guess. And we had it not in 18 months. We didn't have one person shot or killed in Afghanistan, not one person. And then this guy comes in and he takes the soldiers out first, okay? A child. I could take that beautiful child in the third row. I see a beautiful child, like probably 10 or 11, say, would you move the soldiers out first or last? And he'd look at me and say, I think we'll do it last. They took the soldiers out, and then supposed to take them out last. You take all the equipment, you take all the people. We had 13 incredible soldiers. I've gotten to know their families killed. These are unbelievable young people. The families are unbelievable, actually. They've come over to Bedminster and different places, and we love them. But 13 killed so unnecessarily. We left behind $85 billion worth of equipment. You know, Afghanistan now is one of the largest sellers of military equipment in the world. They're selling our beautiful brand new equipment. We left hundreds of people behind, including others that we could have taken, but we left hundreds of Americans behind. They're still there. And I think when Putin and President Xi of China, when they look at this, all of a sudden, President Xi starts thinking in terms of Taiwan. He's certainly thinking a lot about it. They weren't thinking about it 4 years ago. And Putin was always the apple of his eye, but he would have never done it. He would have never done it. And he went into a place that's so beautiful, and it's not so beautiful anymore. He went into Ukraine, And what's happened there is very horrible, very, very horrible, very sad. These are things would have never happened. The attack on Israel would have never happened, And inflation would have never happened. We have inflation, the worst we've had in 72 years. Inflation would have never happened. Energy caused inflation. We had energy low. He had energy high because of his stupid policies. Perhaps worst of all, even as they turn America into a crime-ridden, gang-infested, terror-filled dumping ground, Joe Biden and his thugs will do everything in their power to confiscate your guns and annihilate your God-given right to self-defense. You have a right to self-defense. You've always had that right. And during my 4 years, nothing happened, and there was great pressure on me having to do with guns. We did nothing. We didn't yield. And once you yield a little bit, that's just the beginning. That's the avalanche begins. 4 more years of Joe Biden means 4 more years of anti-gun communists running the ATF. They're going to run it. They're running it now, just in case you have any questions. But it means hundreds of more radical left judges waging a crusade against law-abiding gun owners. And 4 more years of Joe Biden means a nonstop war on gun makers, dealers, and sellers designed to put the entire industry right out of business. They want to put it out of business. I'll tell you, the NRA for me has been a great partner. They endorsed me early in 2016, and the relationship's been a great relationship. And I don't know what they're doing in May, but I understand they're having a very big event in May. They better endorse me. That's the only thing I can say. That's actually an endorsement that means something. Well, I'm coming to Dallas in May, I can tell you that. The only thing standing between you and the obliteration of your under siege Second Amendment is me. I'm the only thing. Anybody else, you wouldn't have your guns right now. You know, they started with the ammunition, you know that. They couldn't do the guns with me, so then they started getting rid of the ammunition. People said, I have a gun, I can't get ammunition. We took care of that very quickly. If Joe Biden is reelected, your gun rights will be gone. They'll be totally gone. You know, the sad part of that is the bad guys aren't giving up their guns. The bad guys aren't, but the good people aren't giving up their guns either, because there's never going to be anybody that's going to be asking for your gun. And when I'm reelected, every single Biden attack on gun owners and manufacturers will be terminated my very first week back in office, perhaps my first day. And every pledge, and your officers will tell you this, every pledge I made to you as a candidate, I fulfilled as your president, every single pledge. Just as I promised back in 2016, I appointed nearly 300 pro-Constitution judges to interpret the law as written.